Welcome back to Vancouver. Canucks getting set to play their last game in quite some time, and it's the first regular season matchup ever between the Canucks and the Arizona Coyotes. Let's see how many times we messed that one up this evening. As always, to call the game, we'll send things over to John Shorthouse and Mr. John Garrett.
Murph, thanks. Canucks, one more home game before a nice break, and they don't play again until Wednesday in Edmonton. Want very badly to pocket these 2 points and have a good feeling heading into the little mini break coming up this week. Our starting goalies brought to you by Tim Hortons, official coffee of the NHL. Dave Tippett, very tight-lipped about his lineup today, but it will be Devan Dubnyk in goal after Mike Smith took the loss last night in Calgary. Dubnyk with his 4th NHL organization in under a year. And for the Canucks, Ryan Miller leading the NHL with 11 wins. He's never lost to the Coyotes in his career, 7-0 with a goals against of 1.27. Oliver Ekman-Larsson ranks 6th in the NHL at just over 26 minutes per game. He played a season-high 31-31 November 4th against Toronto. Kevin Bieksa missed practice yesterday. He was under the weather, but he's good to go tonight against Arizona after scoring his first goal of the season last game out versus Ottawa. Bieksa on defense with Ryan Stanton. Sedin start up front with, yes, the ex-Coyote Radim Vrbata on right wing. It's Vermette, Bodkert, and Korpikoski for the Coyotes. McCulloch on defense with Ekman-Larsson. The puck played into Vancouver zone. Miller out for an early touch to Bieksa and ahead to Vrbata. He finds Stanton, who skates his way through center on the left wing with a wrist shot, gloved by Dubnyk, and he'll hang on for an early whistle, 18 seconds in.
Willie Desjardins using the 4 lines, and now with some of the guys coming back, it's a lot easier for Willie. In the last game, the 4th line did get less minutes. They're in that 5 to 8 minute range, but normally they're in that 10 to 12 minute range, which helps everybody.
Both coaches stick with the same personnel for this face-off in the Arizona zone. And the Canucks win it back to Stanton. He wrists one off a Coyote player and out of play for another whistle.
Dave Tippett's team has been a little inconsistent, John, and you talked about the goaltending decision. Well, Mike Smith has really had his ups and downs. He was hot for a week, and then the last 2 games he's allowed 9 goals. So Devan Dubnyk's in. The Coyotes really need Mike Smith to be good.
Another stop for Dubnyk and our 3rd whistle with just 27 seconds elapsed.
Canucks hockey. Brought to you by Subway. Try the savory new prime rib melt. Thick cuts of juicy Canadian beef for a limited time only at participating restaurants. Subway. Eat fresh.
Another face-off to the right of Devan Dubnyk. Martin Hanzal drew that one back, but Richardson onto the puck. He throws it in front. Hamhuis with a shot, kicked out by Dubnyk. Mathias on the rebound. Now Richardson spins with a shot. He couldn't get it through. Martin Erat forced back by Nicholas Jensen. Jensen staying in the Vancouver lineup. Bo Horvat is not playing tonight. Brandon DeFazio, if he missed it, sent back to Utica. And now an icing call will bring the puck back into the Phoenix or the Arizona zone.
You did it. You did it. And this was pushed ahead on purpose. I don't know whether Hanzal will get credit for winning that. He's a good face-off guy. But Brad Richardson just pushed it ahead and jumped by and created the scoring chance. That was a good play by Brad Richardson on the face-off.
Same 2 on this draw on the other side of the ice. Mathias couldn't quite get to the puck. And Erat throws one ahead. Tobias Rieder in on the left wing, working on Yannick Weber. Rieder drops to Hanzal. Down for Erat. Blue line feed. Yandel with a shot. Miller had a little trouble with it as it came through the screen in front, but he's able to make the save and hang on.
Keith Yandel, who leads the team in shots for the Coyotes, gets another one in. As you said, John, this is through a maze of players, and you could tell Ryan Miller from his reaction didn't see it, but is in the right position, gets hit on the left shoulder and able to hang on.
Yandel stays on the ice. Up front, Coyotes send out Sam Gagner with Rob Klinkhammer and Shane Doan. Canucks have the line of Bonino, Higgins, and Burrows on the ice, and there's Higgins blocking a shot. And now chasing after the puck on Connor Murphy. Collides with Murphy in the corner. Doan trying to get the puck along the inboards. It comes to Yandel. who passes to Murphy, ahead to Gagne. Klinkhammer tips the puck in and moves in on Alex Edler, who shielded him from the puck and now starts out. Higgins takes his pass, fanned as he tried to get it rink wide for Burrows, and the Coyotes controlling their own zone. Arizona looking to avoid a 4th straight loss. A very streaky record to date for the visitors. And they fell 5-3 in their last outing in Calgary. Here's Klinkhammer trying a shot that was blocked, and the puck ricochets out to center. Just about 2 minutes into the first, Michael Stone with a puck. Throws one ahead, that missed everybody, and it's another icing call.
Canucks bench was complaining. They thought there was interference here as Connor Murphy comes back on Chris Higgins. Tied him up a little bit. Didn't get in front of him the entire way, and I think that's why he got away with a little bit of interference.
10 points in the last 12 games for Chris Higgins, who did a nice job at the charity event the other night, the Special Olympics fundraiser. He's always front and center at that event. Takes a breather now as Lyndon Vay comes out with Derek Dorsett and Yannick Hansen. Vitale against Vay on the faceoff. Dorsett tried to force the puck in front. He's back in the lineup after missing a few games with injury. Brandon McMillan chasing after the puck at the Vancouver line. Vancouver gets it out to center. And now it's back to Stanton, who turns in his own zone. Bieksa flips the puck forward, gloved down by Brandon Gormley. Gormley in the lineup. David Schlemko placed on waivers today by Arizona. Here's Bieksa in on the left wing. Slows, tries a shot, that went wide. Antoine Vermette picks up the puck. Had 6 goals against the Canucks last season in 5 games, including a hat trick. Mikkel Bodker in too soon, and Korpikoski hadn't put the puck over the line yet.
Antoine Vermette, certain teams, you remember even when he was in Columbus, he always had great success against the Canucks. And, he gets some lucky goals. Why? You say, well, how does this happen? But you just seem to, when your number goes well against another team, Antoine Vermette cashing in.
22 points in 26 career games against the Canucks. And certainly well above his overall points per game pace in his career. Delayed offside here, but the Coyotes will tag up, and Yannick Weber starts out with the puck. Ahead for Daniel Sedin, who tips one through to Dubnyk. He'll cover up, and we'll check in with Dan Murphy.
Another whistle. We can remind everyone to play Safeway's $1 million score and win. If any Vancouver player scores 5 goals in tonight's game, Brian Mudge of Maple Ridge could win $1 million.
Verbata would be motivated.
Yes.
And he's out there right now as Willie Desjardins leaves the top line on the ice. Puck comes to Zdeněk McCulloch off the draw. And now Ekman Larsson. Up for Reeder, who advances the puck towards Erad. He gloves it down, moves in on Dan Hamhuis, former Nashville teammates, those two. They battle behind the net. Hansel's there as well. Weber's on him. Puck to the corner. Weber's onto it. And he brings it to center. Lead pass. Verbata moves it. Tried to swing one across. Knocked away and picked up by Martin Erad, who carries back in his own zone. Now ahead to Hansel. Plays the puck to the corner. Brad Richardson, first man back. Defers to Hamhuis, who gets the puck to Mathias, and he tips it out to center. Shots are 3-1 Canucks as we approach the 4-minute mark of a scoreless first period. Gagne plays the puck to the near corner, and Edler is back. Good pass ahead to Richardson, who finds Nicholas Jensen. Slides the puck in behind the goal. Richardson moves in after. And there's a puck that Mike Smith almost surely would have played. And maybe a difference there between the two goaltenders, Dubnyk and Smith. Sean Mathias back to Edler. Slams one well wide. Tanev moves down from the right point. Yandel intercepts, gets the puck to the line, and just out. Offside play. And as Richardson carried on towards the puck, the whistle blows.
We saw the nice ceremony before the game, and Pat O'Neill dropping the ceremonial puck. 2,500 games. I remember Patty is one of the few guys that has seen all my shutouts in the league. He was in Winnipeg at the time. And does he ever have a bad day, John? I know all the accomplishments he's had. The one he prides himself the most in is being the Larry Ashley, first recipient of the Larry Ashley Trophy. And the long hours he puts in, he never has a bad day.
And they do put in crazy hours, all the trainers. While we're checking into the hotel, they're heading to the rink to get all the gear organized, and we're talking about 2 a.m. We got a penalty coming up here as Chris Higgins was upended, and Michael Stone's going to head to the box for tripping.
Michael Stone stuck out his leg. Chris Higgins tried to give him the backward spinorama, and Stone, going to his left, sticks out the right leg and catches Chris Higgins and ends up in the penalty box.
Canucks to the power play for the first time in the game. The power play brought to you by Subway. Try the new Canadian Beef Prime Rib Melt at Subway restaurants. Subway, eat fresh. 4:46, the time of the tripping mark. And the Canucks still looking to get out of their power play funk. 2 for 20 in the last 7 games. Although they're still ranked 4th overall at home, they're down to 17th in the NHL. There's a long shot from Edler, stopped by Dubnyk. And the puck is cleared down the ice by Lauri Korpikoski. 5 minutes into the first. And Daniel Sedin on the left wing. Sends one on goal, tipped away by Dubnyk, and Korpikoski will try to move out quickly. Down the left wing, Edler over to meet him, and he's able to poke check the puck away. Gormley at center. Wrists it forward, that hit Korpikoski, and now Vermette chops the puck in behind the Canuck goal. Vancouver changing its forwards and will change the defense as well. BX is onto the ice and he brings the puck forward. Higgins takes his pass on the left wing. Try to drag move, lost control of the puck, and Joe Vitale sends it ahead. Brandon McMillan on the right wing. McMillan trying to cut in front, and a good job by Hamhuis to ride him into the inboards. Hamhuis having none of the puck on that play. Here's Bonino sending the puck in off the glass. Under a minute to go in the power play. Just the early shot from Edler off the face-off win so far. Bonino able to get the puck back to Alex Burrows, who's manning a point. So a new look here. Oh, no, sorry, he's not. BX is out there. He was just on a foray up the ice. BX is stationed at the point. Now the puck ricochets to him on the left side. Centers, Higgins, quick shot. That grazed the outside of the net. Puck cleared around the boards and all the way down the ice. We have seen Alex Burrows take shifts on defense in a pinch, but he's not on the power play point. Brad Richardson. Dozen seconds to go on the man advantage. He flips the puck in. Nick Jensen hustles after it. Able to send it back towards Chris Tanev, who shoots that off the Coyote stick and wide of the goal. Mark Erad, who tipped the puck, making sure the stick isn't broken, and now he'll chase after the Vancouver line, beaten to the puck by Tanev. Penalties over. Canucks 0 for 1 on the power play. And here comes Marty Hanselin. Puck knocked away from him, and Edler takes control. Lead pass, Jensen trying to get behind Gormley, who's able to tap the puck to the inboards. 7 minutes into the first, no score. Erat gets the pass through to Hansel. Through center with Klinkhammer. He dumps the puck towards the Canuck goal. Miller kind of fanned on it as he tried to swing it around the boards. And now intercepting is Shane Doan. Verbata takes the puck away. Banks it out to center. Connor Murphy fell down. Sean Mathias moves it on the left wing. Mathias waiting for help. Now works his way back up the board, sends the puck to the corner. That's picked off, and nothing comes of the Murphy stumble in the neutral zone. That won't be the only Murphy stumble on this show tonight. Here's Sam Gagner, leaving for Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who dumps the puck around to the near side. Verbata trying to move the puck ahead. Gagner got in front of that, but now another chance for Radim Verbata, who headmans to Henrik Sedin. Dan Hamhuis to Daniel Sedin. His pass across blocked, and Klinkhammer, who made the play, one-hands the puck down. 8 minutes into a fast-moving first, no score. Daniel Sedin stays out. He and Henrik trying to make something happen. Bodker got in the way of that. And now McCulloch from behind the goal rings the puck around. Bieksa holds it in. Kevin Bieksa behind the net to Daniel Sedin. Tried to center for Lyndon Bay, and that was broken up by Antoine Vermette. Here come the Coyotes, 4 of them to center. Vermette up the right wing. Bodker, and offside was Vermette as Korpikoski tried to move in over the line. We're 8.5 in, no score. Canucks and the Coyotes from Rogers Arena in Vancouver.
Well, there's Patty O'Neill, once again his 25th 100 NHL game. First one was for the Coyotes franchise, otherwise known as the Jets, back in 1980 versus Colorado. He's worked, he says, under 17 different head coaches, 6 different general managers. As for the most low-maintenance superstars, that goes to the Twins. And as for keeping in touch with former players, there are a lot of them, but especially those from the '94 Cup run. John?
Also the king of the nickname, and you can't wait to hear others, but you dread finding out what yours is.
Oh, I know. And you saw Shane Doan at the ceremonial puck drop, and Patty has the Olympics and the World Championships and all these. So many players respect what he has done.
Pat O'Neill is the man who dubbed you Lotto.
You had to go there.
For your season-ending goals against average of 649.
First it was Murph, and now you just couldn't resist it.
I kid because I love. Here's Lyndon Vay from deep in his own zone. Long pass ahead, knocked away by Stone, and Edler takes control inside the Vancouver blue line. Vay from center, end of his shift. He riffs the puck in behind the goal. And Yandel has it for Arizona. Stanton breaks that up. Canucks have 3 to center. Bonino recovers to take the pass. Higgins cuts and direct backhander. Stopped by Dubik. Rebound. He couldn't get it home as well. Good quick move to the middle by Chris Higgins, who's playing with lots of confidence. Bonino couldn't get that puck out past Reeder. And Hansel's on it in the corner. Bieksa steps into him. Penalty coming up here, I think, to Stanton for a hook. And the Canucks are going to be short-handed here, just shy of the halfway mark of the first. Pardon me, it's Bonino headed off. 13. No, it is Stanton. Always stick with your first choice.
Hooking.
Well, that was caused, as you said, by Nick Bonino. Couldn't get the puck out, and then all of a sudden the Canucks, as Reeder stole it from Nick Bonino, Ryan Stanton was headed the wrong way. He had to reach out with a stick and ends up with a hooking penalty. Ryan Stanton is going one way. Martin Hansel's going the other, and Stanton reached out and takes the hooking penalty.
Arizona going through similar power play woes as the Canucks, although did go 1 for 1 in Calgary last night, but had been 0 for 18 the previous 4 games. That puck ricochets out of play. There'll be a face-off in the neutral zone.
This period brought to you by Toyota. Comfort, style, technology, and one incredible drive. The 2015 Toyota RAV4. Let's play.
Antoine Vermette scored the power play goal. Sean Mathias getting ice time as a penalty killer also.
Canucks 7 in the NHL on the PK. Killed off 26 of the last 29. Doan to Ekman-Larsson. Bodker on the right side. Vermette's in front of the net, battling Bieksa. As Bodker turns with the puck, back to Yandel. Mikhail Bodker once more, tried to go diagonally across, and reaching out was Jannik Hansen to deflect that puck out of play.
Last night in Calgary, the Arizona Coyotes worked their power play to Vermette, and he was on the right side facing the offensive goal, and this time they set it up on the left side, and Vermette was the net presence. It's hard to make this play. It's a long cross-ice pass, and Jannik Hansen stick out, able to tip that one up and over the glass.
A little over a minute to go in the power play, and the Coyotes control. Gagne sends one on goal. That went off his stick of Tanev and wide of the net. Now Tanev after the puck in the corner. Checked by Hansel. Gagne centers and knocked away neatly by Richardson on a pass intended for Martin Erat.
He missed Mike Ribeiro, the Arizona Coyotes. He was still is a great power play centerman.
Keith Yandel carries the puck in, sends it across to Erat, who gets a return feed from Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Now Gagne to Ekman-Larsson. 35 seconds to go in the power play. Erat pass towards the goal line, disrupted by Edler, but the Coyotes regain control of the puck, and here's Yandel. To the other side, Sam Gagne with a shot handled by Miller. And no rebound for Martin Hansel in front.
Ryan Miller, a good position. And Martin Hansel tries to get in the shooting lane. Sam Gagner tees it up, but Ryan Miller, good job, leans to the left as Hansel's more towards the right post. Pick the right side.
24 seconds to go on the Ryan Stanton penalty. Henrik Sedin and Daniel Sedin out for the tail end of this penalty kill. Doan rings the puck around. Stone and move to the middle and can't hold it in. Offside whistle with 16 seconds to go on the man advantage.
Stone looks at the linesman, but I don't think there's any doubt about that one. Brad Lazarowicz was perched on the bench. Made the call.
Mike Civic working with Brad Lazarowicz. Referees are Dean Morton and Mark Joannette. Bodker brings the puck in on the right wing. Now it's thrown to the blue line to Stone. Left point, Gormley. Tried to send one to the high slot for Vermette. That was deflected away. And Henrik Sedin clears the puck. There's Stanton out of the box. And he's able to send it forward down into the Phoenix zone. Arizona.
That's only twice.
Yeah, but that's about 8 times fewer than the preseason.
Yeah.
Both teams changing as Chris Tanev goes back for the puck. Edler takes his pass back to Tanev, ahead for Verbata. So Daniel Sedin headed off. We've got Henrik Sedin with Verbata and Derek Dorsett right now. Edler from the left point, slap shot, blocked by McMillan. Loose puck at the side. Dorsett tried to backhand it on goal. Now Verbata. Blue line feed. Edler wrists one towards the net. Dorsett overskated the puck. And Vitale chips it forward right through to Ryan Miller, who will cover up and take the whistle. Still no score. The Canucks and the Arizona Coyotes. You're watching Canucks hockey on Sportsnet.
Finger cooked tonight. Order from over 100 menu items at bostonpizza.com.
Canucks Fantasy Hockey, powered by Rogers, is back with a brand new format. Compete against other fans and you could win monthly prizes. Visit CanucksFantasyHockey.com to play for free and show your fellow fans what you're made of.
Shot 7-2 Canucks, still no score. As Sam Gagner gets set for this face-off against Brad Richardson in the Vancouver zone. Puck to the sideboards. And Shane Doan after it there, taken away by Matthias, who tips it forward and now chases after Connor Murphy. Gets the puck ahead. Jensen down the left side. Wrist shot handled by Dubnyk. And he's able to cover with Matthias going hard to the front of the net.
Connor Murphy's had a couple of problems in this game. He stumbled earlier, and this time Sean Matthias chips it by him. And Murphy, was that interference? And Matthias looked over at the referee, doesn't get the call. And Devin Dubnyk makes the easy save.
8 shots, 8 saves for Dubnyk. Here's Matthias, back to Handhus. Here's shot blocked by Hansel. Erat couldn't get the puck out. Richardson holding it in twice. Now 2 Coyotes on him. Puck to the blue line, held in by Weber. But Erat able to take control and drop back to Ekman-Larsson. Now McCulloch to Ekman-Larsson. Hansel deflects the puck in. Handhus under pressure from Reeder, who comes out with the puck. Back to Ekman-Larsson. Wrist shot blocked by Jensen, who broke his stick. Has to discard it. And the puck goes high and over the glass in the corner.
Break for Nick Jensen. Good shot block, and it's chipped up and over the glass. Coyotes have had a couple of looks like this where the Canucks get so deep in their own zone in desperation, you got to go out and try and block it. Nick Jensen halfway up the stick, broke the shaft.
Lori Korpikoski working from the corner. Puck comes loose to Derek Dorsett. He elects to drop it behind the net. Korpikoski there trying to intercept, but Bieksa separates him from the puck. throws it up the middle and it deflects outside the line. Dorsett tips the puck in. Hansen moves in on Stone. Gives him a bump along the boards. Korpikoski able to shake free from Hansen. Now fire near side. Gormley missed it. Here's Vey round behind the net. Lyndon Vey turning the corner, centers, and Dorsett missed the pass. Bieksa holds the puck in, but now it's brought out to center by Lauri Korpikoski, who gains the red and dumps the puck in. Bieksa. Exchanging words as they head to their respective benches. Nick Bonino onto the ice. He tips the puck in off the end glass. 5.5 minutes to go in the first. No score. Alex Burrows from behind the net. Puck comes back towards Tanev. Now here's Bonino with some room. Centering, and Burrows checked by Keith Yandle as the pass came towards him. Yandle now leads the rush to center. Slows inside the line. Centers, Hansel scores! Martin Hansel off the pass from Keith Yandle, and it's 1-0 Arizona.
And you can see Alex Burrows' reaction on this one. He's right with Martin Hansel. Has him all the way, and yet the pass gets through, and Burrows doesn't lay a hand on him. He reaches out, and it's too late then. And there's Hansel. Good play, takes it on the forehand. It goes right by Alex Burrows, who loses Hansel right at the last second, and look at his reaction. He knows that's his man. Everybody, you trust your guy, your goaltender, you look up and see he's covered. Don't come across quite as quickly.
In off the right pad. Hansel's third. He had a career-high 40 points last season. And Yandle and Connor Murphy get the assists on the opening goal at 14:56. Canucks have shown to be a team that doesn't panic when it surrenders the first goal. It's the 10th time Vancouver has given up the opening goal. This is game number 18, and the Canucks are 6-3 in the 9 previous. Daniel Sedin right wide to Henrik. Drops for Bravada. Puts it on the forehand. He shoots, and a blocker saved by Dubnyk. Daniel Sedin gets to the loose puck. Henrik takes his pass. Back to Yannick Weber, who carries down towards the corner, tries to cut in front. Here's Bravada. Back to Hamhuis, one-timer, blocked by B.J. Crombie. And Crombie, who's playing his 400th career game tonight, heads to the Arizona bench. Henrik Sedin was a little slow getting to the Vancouver bench as the Canucks try to move through center, but an errant pass winds up on the stick of Gormley. Doan trying to move in. Now Klinkhammer follows up. To the blue line, Stone drives one wide. Puck ricochets towards Gormley, who tips it to the corner. Weber there to intercept, and he's able to clear the puck out. Kevin Bieksa back for a loose puck. Works it along the boards to Brad Richardson. Now Bieksa leads the charge through center. Down the left wing, trying to cut in front. Quick shot stop. Mathias after the rebound. Turns on the side, back to Richardson, who shoots, and a stick saved by Dubnyk. Korpikoski slides the puck back into his own zone. 3 minutes to go in the first. 1-0 Arizona. Stone rips the puck in from center. Bieksa able to get it out. Yandle chases back. Dorsett's on him. And Derek Dorsett able to free up the puck for Lyndon Vey. Yandle slow to get up. He's limping, favoring his left leg. Struggling to get to the Arizona bench. And that would be terrible news for the Coyotes if Keith Yandle was injured to any degree. Puck still in the Coyote zone now. Brought ahead by Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And he tips the puck in behind the Canuck goal. Erat blocked the clearing attempt, but now Edler's out with the puck. Flips one ahead for Jannik Hansen to chase after. But the Coyotes have an answer for that. Keith Yandle looks like he might head to the dressing room, still being checked out of the bench.
Well, with only 2 minutes left here in the period, you'd think he would.
Here's Yannick Weber sifting his way in, but offside was Chris Higgins, says the linesman. Whistle blows, and the Coyotes hoping this isn't too serious as Keith Yandle went down awkwardly.
This season, stay out of the penalty box. Find gifts you'll adore, like Arctic Brilliance Canadian Diamonds, only at People's, Canada's diamond store. Let love shine.
Well, we've upgraded the panel for the first intermission. No, I'll still be hosting it, but we'll be joined by that man, former Canucks player, current Canucks general manager Jim Benning. We'll talk about his team start so far and perhaps what the plans will be for Bo Horvat moving forward.
Horvat not in the lineup. This would have been game number 6, with 9 being the magic number, or maybe more accurately 10. Here's Klinkhammer getting around Vrbata. Sharp angle shot, missed the net. Puck comes to Daniel Sedin over his stick, but now played in offside, and the whistle blows.
This period brought to you by Toyota. Comfort, style, technology, and one incredible drive. The 2015 Toyota RAV4. Let's play.
Shots on goal are 11-3. But the Canucks' chances, I don't think they've had any real great chances in this one. Firing the puck at Devan Dubnyk. Shot of Shane Doan there. You see his goal last night. It was a typical Shane Doan wrist shot.
Here's a turnover, but Gormley was stripped of the puck, and back comes Higgins. He's scored a lot of them. 358 in his career, Shane Doan. Erat did well to hold that puck in. His first shot off the target. Final minute, first period. And another shot attempt by Murphy is off the stick of Higgins and over the glass.
Shane Doan came down the right side last night in Calgary and just wrist shot, top of the circle. Well, between the top of the circles and the face-off dot, post and in. They've got the Coyotes coming back. They were down 3-1, tied it up, and then Calgary went on to win. Mike Smith handed one to your pal David Jones. Banked one in from the boards.
We're going to hear from Shane Doan coming up in the intermission. As Alex Edler rushes through center, hard pass right across the slot. Jensen picks up the puck, tries to bring it in front. Knocked away, and Mikhail Bodker comes back for Arizona. Miller taps that puck to Tannen. Final 30 seconds of the opening period. Canucks trailing 1-0. Richardson steps in and bowls over Vermette. Edler wrists a long one in on Dubnyk, who knocks the puck down and slides it to Zbynek McCulloch. Ahead for McMillan, who's checked at center by the other 22, Daniel Sedin. 10 seconds to go in the first. And Ekman-Larsson passes across his own zone to McCulloch, content to kill off the last few seconds of this period, and the visiting Coyotes will head to the dressing room with a 1-goal lead.
Brad Richardson on Antoine Vermette. Solid check. Vermette on 1 foot. Looked worse than it was.
A little physicality from Richardson to end the period. Just the 1 goal. Devan Dubnyk didn't give up any. And Martin Hanzal has his first against the Canucks in his career. He had 7 assists previously. Now has a goal, Brad. And the Coyotes looking to end a 3-game losing streak, lead 1-0. That Martin Hanzal goal giving Arizona a 1-0 lead as we go to the second period here at Rogers Arena. But before they resume play, let's check out John's Fresh Take, brought to you by Subway. Try the new Canadian Beef Prime Rib Melt at Subway Restaurant. Subway, eat fresh.
It's an art as a defenseman to play guys one-on-one. Alex Edler, long stick. Okay, great play. Get it out there. Easy out. Dan Hamhuis, body. Take the body. Don't let the guy cut in. 2 hands on the stick so you don't get the holding penalty. 2 different ways, and that's a fresh take on how to play a one-on-one.
Big blow for Arizona as we begin the second period, and that is the absence of Keith Yandle, who was injured late in the first, a collision with Derek Dorsett. Yandle not returning here for period 2. Ranks 7th in the NHL in average ice time, just behind teammate Oliver Ekman-Larsson. It'll be up to the other 5 to have to fill significant minutes for the Coyotes. Here's Vancouver's number 3, Kevin Bieksa, dumping the puck in. McCulloch one-hands it to Ekman-Larsson. Throws one ahead for Bodker. He missed the pass, and an early icing call 28 seconds in.
Well, Yandel does so much for this Coyotes team. He got an assist on their only goal. He and Ekman-Larsson coming into the game, tied for most shots on the team with 58. Ekman-Larsson has struggled a little bit at minus 12. That's the second or third worst in the NHL.
Mentioned his season high was 31.5 minutes against Toronto just under 2 weeks ago. He might be staring at something along those lines in the absence of Yandel for 2 periods. Here's Sean Matthias. Richardson comes out front. 2 shots and a third. Couldn't get it through. First one was stopped by the left pad of Dubnyk. Yannick Weber with a long blast. Just missed as he unloaded from the blue line. Matthias from behind the goal. Passes back. Richardson to Hamhuis. Centering pass. Weber tried a backhander that went well wide. Puck hits the referee. Comes to Richardson, who set up Nicholas Jensen, and his shot was stopped. Energetic start to the second for Vancouver, trailing 1-0. Matthias doing some board work. Hooks the puck in for Jensen. Trying to get away from Vermette, who knocked him down. Jensen lost a glove. And then Vermette, I think, was complaining he might have been high stick. Play goes on. Weber intercepts at center. But Jensen had yet to vacate the zone as Yannick Weber moved in on the right wing.
Nicholas Jensen and his line. Good pressure. Sean Matthias kicks it out to Brad Richards. He slides it. Devin Dubnyk's a big guy. Gets the legs down. Makes the original save. And Jensen with the bare hand grabs a hold of Vermette's stick and, well, chicken winged it. Vermette was complaining about that.
I knew he was complaining about something. That undetected and uncalled. Now Gormley able to get the puck across, sent down the ice by Stone, and that'll produce another whistle.
You can use chicken wing as a verb. In my vocabulary, you can use chicken wing as a verb.
You can use it just about any situation.
Faceoffs in the first period were not good for the Canucks. The Coyotes, a very good faceoff team with Vermette and Hansel. Even Sam Gagner is not too bad at 50% coming into this game.
Michael Stone collects the puck behind his net, banks it forward. Here's Klinkhammer with Sam Gagner going to the net. Klinkhammer centers. Gagner might have just had a little tug on the arm from Bonino as the pass came across and couldn't make contact with the puck. Other way, just onside is Edler sending one on goal, stopped by Dubnyk. Edler again to Nick Bonino. He shoots, stopped by Dubnyk on the short side. And we've come to learn that Nick Bonino can pick his spots even if there's not a lot of room. Klinkhammer, end of his shift, backhands the puck in, heads to the bench. 4 shots to none already for the Canucks in the period. In the game, it's 16-3, but Martin Hansel has the game's only goal. Turnover at center. Lyndon Vay tips the puck to Derek Dorsett. In on the right wing. Good hard hit from Ekman-Larsson. McCulloch dumps the puck around. Stanton moves down from the left point. Spinning with the puck is Erad. He gets bodied in the corner by Dorsett. Puck goes out of play and the whistle blows. Murph.
Well, guys, we've heard how good of a communicator Willie Desjardins is with his players, and today he said he actually went to Lyndon Vay to ask him if it was bothering him that he's moving him back between center and wing. He didn't want to ruin his confidence. Vay said, no problem, but thanks for asking.
At a very late after the whistle skirmish on the ice here, B.J. Crombie and Derek Dorsett, I'm assuming in response to the hit on Erad.
On Erad.
Now is that starting an altercation after leaving the bench?
This might be the John Scott rule. Dorsett's already...
44. Vancouver with 51. Both committed case of roughing.
Now, I don't know whether Crombie was on the ice. Or did he come off the bench?
I think he was on the change. In the meantime, Keith Yandel has returned. And he's in this discussion with the officials at the blue line. So Yandel does return about 3 minutes into the second period. after suffering what appeared to be a leg or ankle injury late in the first. We'll see if he's able to gut it out or if he'll have to shut it down after giving it a try.
I'm going to have to get my rule book out again.
They have it online, you know.
Yes.
So 4-on-4 with the Coincidental Miners at 2:52 for roughing. Here's Tobias Rieder onto a puck. Ekman Larsson going to the net. Pass intended for him, picked off by Henrik Sedin. Oh, perfect one for Bieksa. He's able to skate under that puck. Now Henrik from the right wing corner. Along for Daniel Sedin, intercepted by Ekman Larsson, who passes to Zbynek McCullough. We've seen the prowess of the Sedins 4-on-4 twice in overtime this year. Last game against Ottawa, previously against Montreal. And they're out in this 4-on-4 situation. But the puck is in the Vancouver zone, and here's Yandel with a wrist shot off the end of the glove of Miller and wide of the goal. Murphy to Yandel. Did well to knock that out of the air and hold it onside. Hansel battling Stanton behind the net. Stanton went down, and he's shaken up. Ryan Stanton hunched over. He'll try to get to the bench as Bieksa rushes the puck out and moves in on the left wing. Round for Daniel Sedin. His pass blocked by Yandel, who works the puck ahead to Mikhail Bodker. Stanton has a towel to his face, so might have been clipped. Here's Yandel trying to get around Hamhuis, who was able to knock the puck away. Ryan Stanton going to head to the Vancouver dressing room as Murphy unloads a shot, deflected and stopped by Miller. The rebound put wide by Bodker. Here's Mikhail Bodker again, waving for Brandon Gormley, cutting in towards the goal, centers the puck, and that was knocked away. Good pressure by the Coyotes, with Weber now controlling behind his own net. Brad Richardson carries in. Drops, Hamhuis with room, he shoots, and he missed on the short side. Back comes Arizona, penalized player, step out of the box. Dorsett steps in front of Crombie, takes the puck away, but Doan intercepts behind the goal, sends it in front, knocked away by Brad Richardson. Bravada tips the puck out, and Dorsett chases after it. Moving in on Gormley. Dorsett lost control for a moment, then kicked the puck out. He's taken off the puck by Gormley, and Gagne throws it across for Michael Stone. A little over 5 minutes into the second, 1-0 Arizona. Alex Edler from deep in his own end threw the puck up the middle right to Sam Gagne. Here's Klinkhammer from behind the goal. He's checked. And Nick Bonino starts out with a lead pass intended for Burrows, and Ekman Larsson able to dive out and break it up. This will be icing as the Coyotes sent the puck in from their own side of center.
Well, Dan Hamhuis, great scoring chance and just pulls it wide. Gets a bounce, wrist shot. Short side, and he had some room on Devin Dubnyk. Ryan Stanton, we talked about the dasher boards last game when we were looking at Derek Dorsett's injury, and there's another case where he catches right on the edge of the dasher board. Alex Burrows that far away from a clear-cut breakaway.
Richardson waved out of this face-off, and Sean Mathias will move in to take it. Wouldn't have been surprised to see Dan Hamhuis bury that chance earlier. He has more goals against Arizona in his career than any other team. 7. Did well to recover theirs. He was being pressured at the blue line. Now Jensen cuts in front. Richardson couldn't reach the loose puck. Here's Bieksa to Hamhuis. He risks one in front. Loose at the side. Richardson trying to come up with it. He was being checked by Gagne, and the Coyotes tipped the puck out. Ekman Larsson intercepts at his own line. Close play, but onside. Bieksa winds up with the puck. Hoists a high one, which is knocked down by Connor Murphy. Ekman Larsson sends the puck the other way. Crombie moves in, finds Vitale, who tried to center for McMillan. That was blocked. Crombie again towards the goal, grabbed and held by Miller, who's going to react to that. Vitale was digging for the puck. Miller the first to react, and then in came the cavalry. We'll take a break here. Coyotes being badly outshot, but they have the lead, 1-0, 6.5 into the second. John Charthouse, John Garrett here. Canucks having the better of the play, but Still trailing 1-0
But
here.
look at their chances. The Dan Hamhuis chance where he missed the net, that's the best chance of the game. And other than that, even though the shots are 16-5, they haven't had a whole lot of quality chances. I don't blame Ryan Miller for this one. He's got his glove on the puck. The whistle has blown, and Joe Vitale just trying to get under his skin. Gives him a little shot.
Ryan Miller 7-0 in his career against the Coyotes. Needs a little offensive support in this one. As the puck comes free to Chris Tanev, he works it quickly to Vrbata, but his pass for Daniel Sedin didn't work. McCulloch backhands the puck up the boards, past Tanev and down into the Vancouver zone. Still no Ryan Stanton at the Vancouver bench as Tanev brings the puck in on the right wing. Slides one through towards Henrik Sedin. McCulloch's on him. They latch onto each other. Erat gives the puck away. But Daniel Sedin was checked and lost his stick. He recovers it as Edler moves in on the left wing. Pass for Vrbata went off the end of his stick, and Ekman-Larsson starts back. Drops the puck to McCulloch. Both teams will start changes a little past the 7-minute mark, second period. Bodker couldn't reach that pass, but he closes the gap on Hamhuis and goes after the puck in the corner. Korpikoski there as well. Turning with the puck. Turning again. Taken away by Dorsey. And now the puck knocked back by Vermette to Yandel. Vermette carries forward and hooks the puck to the corner. Hamhuis off the glass and out, and Yandel collects the puck at his own blue line. His long pass off the mark, another icing whistle. Face-off comes down to the other end. A new season, a new game, a million reasons to play. Play the new Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey Pool on sportsnet.ca for your chance to win $1 million or a VIP trip for two to a regular season NHL game next year. It's free and easy to play. Get started today at sportsnet.ca/fantasy.
Antoine Vermette taking his time.
Facing off against Nick Bonino, the Canucks win it. Bieksa moves to the middle with a wrist shot that hit Higgins, but he's able to hold the puck in. Bonino from the corner. Working on Murphy behind the net. Now Burrows hooks the puck back to Weber. Other side, Bieksa to the high slot. Higgins takes the puck to the left wing boards. Vermette trying to check him. Bodker as well, but the Canucks hold the puck. Burrows behind for Higgins. Turning in the corner. Higgins had his pass deflect off his stick. Burrows gets to the loose puck. Behind the goal to Bonino. Higgins comes in to help out. Passes back. Here's Bieksa with a shot. That's off a stick, and then the puck dribbled wide. Murphy hammers the puck around and gets it out to center. But the Coyotes won't be able to make a full change as Weber moves back in on the right wing, but Canucks had not yet vacated the zone, and it's an offside whistle.
Great Canadian Oil Change. Family owned and operated. Superb customer service and new vehicle warranty approved products, including Valvoline Premium Oils. Great Canadian Oil Change. Over 60 locations across Canada.
Puck gets back to Kevin Bieksa. He's just trying to get it through. He's even trying to shoot it wide, and it's off his stick and just dribbles wide.
Nicholas Jensen moves in on the forecheck. Comes up with the puck. Pass was blocked. He works to get it back and does. Twice. Here's Jensen, quick shot. Dubnyk able to track it all the way, make the save, and hang on.
Nicholas Jensen, very persistent, able to create a turnover. Okay, in on the forecheck, get body position. Don't give up. No hook. Just reach in, use that long reach, use your strength, and then fire it on net, hope for a rebound. But Devan Dubnyk does a nice job controlling that rebound.
McCulloch controlling in his own zone. Pass to Ekman-Larsson. And now McCulloch in. Look out. That's off a stick and into the bench. And coaches, the Coyote bench ducking for cover as we check in with Murph.
Time to tell everyone that Safeway's featured participating product for tonight's game is Melita Traditional or Estate Whole Bean Coffee.
Neil Brown was one of the coaches in the line of fire there, the ex-Canuck assistant at the Phoenix bench.
Off the bodies and angled right in. Jim Playfair also ducking.
Yannick Weber wrists the puck in. Connor Murphy helps it along, and it deflects perfectly to Brandon McMillan. It plays chip and chase into the Vancouver zone. Centers the puck back towards Yandel. Daniel Sedin takes it away. Banks one ahead to Henrik. Verbata going to the net. Edler's the trailer. Henrik slows, centers, and Edler couldn't handle the pass. Vitale to Yandel and back to Joe Vitale. Drop pass, Crombie, wrist shot, missed the net. Canucks will try to break back with numbers. Henrik Sedin leading away, they're 3-on-2. Henrik in, drops, Verbata, wrist shot blocked as Michael Stone got in front of it. Bieksa hustles into the blue line, runs into Stone, they exchange shots. Daniel Sedin intercepts in the corner. Taken off the puck by Stone, Vitale has it, throws it up the middle. Bieksa intercepts, but Vitale gets the puck back and carries it ahead. He flips one in, Erat off the bench, hustles after the puck, but Bieksa beats him to it and passes around for Dan Hamhuis. Puck out to center, Hamhuis collects it, now Bonino to Burrows. Slap shot, stick save, Dubnyk. Higgins after the puck in the corner. Just under 9.5 to go in the second, it's 1-0 Arizona. Bieksa to Hamhuis. Here's Higgins with room on the left wing. Back to Kevin Bieksa. Dan Hamhuis, pass for Higgins, picked off. Puck tipped ahead to Erat. And his pass in front was blocked by Hamhuis. Erat falls down. Puck loose behind the net. Bieksa collects it with 9 minutes to go in the second. Here's Bonino. In on the right wing. Rishad just grazed the blocker of Dubnyk. Tanev at the right point. He puts one towards the front, tipped by Bonino and stopped by Dubnyk. Couple chances for Nick Bonino, who now has the puck at center and fires it to Tanev. Back in on the right wing. Sharp angle shot. Dubnyk had trouble with it, gave up a big rebound. Holding the line is Yannick Hansen. Down for Higgins. Being checked by Hansel, gives up the puck to Bodker. And this is turning into a 2-on-1 with Korpikoski in front. Bodker stopped by Miller with a left pad, and he's able to freeze the puck. Chances at both ends, but nothing doing. It's still 1-0 Coyotes here in Vancouver.
Radim Verbata, key off-season signing for the Vancouver Canucks, and if it was up to him, he would have re-signed in Arizona. He never really wanted to leave. He talked contract all last season, never got it done. Some people say it was a no-trade clause that really stymied the deal, so he went to his next best spot, and that would be Vancouver, and he's worked out well so far, 13 points in 15 games, but it's unbelievable when you talk to the Coyotes, the players go out of their way to say nice things about their former teammate.
You saw Shane Doan's reaction when Irf asked him in the intermission. His face lit up talking about his ex-teammate. Doan out on the ice right now as the puck comes back to Murphy, left point Yandel, and over to Murphy again. Down for Gagne, who tested Miller from a sharp angle. And that was dangerous on the attempt to bank it in.
And Ryan Miller not quite turned to face Sam Gagne at the side, and yet able to hang on tight to the post. That's the key, tight to the post. And no way that could squeak by. He's able to hang on.
Canucks continuing to play without Ryan Stanton. It was Phoenix that entered the period with worries of playing with 5 defensemen, but Yandel has returned. Stanton shaken up here in period 2. Race to the puck at center. Vermette gets there ahead of Daniel Sedin. Connor Murphy gains center, dumps the puck in. Miller had his pass intercepted in the corner, and now Korpikoski has a shot go off Weber's stick and wide. Daniel Sedin to Henrik Sedin, quickly ahead of Verbata. Moving in on McCullough. Henrik leads for Daniel. Henrik again, Bieksa, slap shot, tipped and then stopped. Loose puck comes in front as Verbata chopped at it, and it's grabbed and held onto by Dubnyk.
Verbata's had some chances in this one. Good quick puck movement. Verbata starts it. Henrik and Daniel. Short passes. Kevin Bieksa's shot tipped by Daniel in front. Verbata's right there to try and slide it back out in front.
Dubnyk, blockers save. Able to direct the puck all the way down. And Dan Hamhuis goes back to collect. Under pressure behind the net. Able to play the puck away from Tobias Rieder, who closes the gap quickly in the corner. Here's Hansel. Back to Murphy, quickly to Yandel. Slap pass, and Hansel couldn't make contact in front. Coyotes hold the puck in. Hansel back to Yandel. Another shot. Miller off the blocker, juggled it, and then grabbed the puck for the whistle. Murph.
The Canucks for Kids Fun Super Seals competition is back and is powered by Rogers. It's going to be Sunday, December 14th at Rogers Arena. Come see your Canucks up close and showcase their skills at this fun-filled family event. Tickets on sale start at $15 at ticketmaster.ca/skills.
Ryan Stanton, it's never fun to get stitches in your eyebrows. And Ryan Stanton's got a few just at the corner of the eyebrow off the dasher.
Maybe the league will listen to your suggestion.
Yes.
Here's Burrows trying to bust it and being hounded all the way by Gormley. Gets the puck again, does Alex Burrows. Gagne's on him this time. Now Gormley trying to poke the puck away, helps it up the boards. Weber moves down from the right point. Gagne able to pick up the puck, send it ahead. Weber hustling back as the Coyotes look for an odd man rush. Here's a big rebound to Gagne, and diving out was Burrows to make the defensive play after the rebound off the right pad of Miller. Higgins at the other end of the ice, waiting for help. Sends one across. Jensen off the bench, finds some room on the left wing. Now centers the puck. Higgins stopped by Dubnyk. What a pass by Jensen, but Higgins couldn't put it home.
What a save by Devan Dubnyk.
Doan offside on this play, and the whistle blows. 5:58 to go in the second. Higgins denied at one end after Burrows made the defensive play on Gagne. This week on Hockey Night in Canada, 5 choices of nationally televised games. Start your Saturday with Hockey Central Saturday at 3:30. And then the Leafs and the Sabres on CBC, Jets and Predators on City, Flyers and Canadians on Sportsnet, and the Rangers at Penguins on FX. All followed by the Senators and Flames on CBC at 7 p.m. Go to sportsnet.ca/schedule for details. 1-0 Coyotes in this one as Joe Vitale dumps the puck in from center. Richardson works it to the side. Matthias gets the puck out. Puck sent towards the Vancouver blue line. Bieksa passes to Ryan Stanton. Bieksa again. Ahead to Richardson. Drops for Stanton. Quick shot. And reaching out with the glove was Devan Dubnyk to make the save.
Devan Dubnyk, no problems with that one. Long wrist shot, no traffic. Look at the traffic. There is none. Devan Dubnyk, after last season, just a chance to get back in the league. Proved that he belongs. The Edmonton Oilers kind of threw him in a position where it was either make or break, and it broke him. Now he's struggling to get back in the East Coast League last year for a little bit.
Went from Edmonton to Nashville and traded to Montreal. Never played for the Canadians, just Hamilton. Now with the Coyotes, 22 saves on 22 shots. Mikkel Boedker, poke check by Alex Edler. Vermette picks up the puck and moves in. Dishes off to the side, and a shot by Korpikoski is handled and held by Ryan Miller.
I don't know about you, John, but this is a good news, bad news thing. The Canucks 19 times play a team that played the night before. It's usually in Calgary or Edmonton. So the travel's not that bad. The team gains an hour, but especially if the team loses the night before. The motivation is there, and sometimes I think in that day off in between, if they lose, then okay, they continue, they dwell on it. But if you lose, you come right back and play at it. You usually play better.
Well, this season when the Canucks win the first game of back-to-back. They've lost the second each time, and the one time they lost the first game, they won the second. So you're on to something, I
Yes.
think. Erat to Reeder, deflected in. Ryan Miller's arguing high stick, but it's 2-0 Arizona. And the officials are going to congregate and make sure that's the case.
Martin Hanzal is cruising through.
And Miller might have a case.
Martin Hanzal's a big guy, but it's the crossbar. Doesn't matter shoulders on Martin Hanzal. It's a crossbar. That's a high stick.
I think Ryan Miller might win this argument.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's definitely.
look where his glove was. He was tracking the puck.
Yeah, that's definitely a high stick, and it's off the blade of the stick. There's no doubt about this one. It's not off the shaft. And you can tell from Hansel's reaction. He wasn't celebrating. It was almost like, oh, well, I didn't really touch it.
Well, take the case to Toronto. And again, I'm talking about a professionally trained goaltender,
Yes.
who has a good ability of catching the puck, and you can see where his glove was. Now, granted, that was where it was going to reach its apex when he got to him. But
Yes.
it was still rising, but it looks like it was already above the crossbar when the puck
Martin
was touched.
Hanzal off the blade of the stick and then down into the corner, top corner of the net. I don't think there's much doubt about that one.
I'm with you. We can agree on this one.
And you could tell from Hansel's reaction, I think he knew right away that it was a high stick. Would have been his second goal of the game, so you'd be celebrating. And instead he was just, okay, maybe.
Conversation continues. Mark Schwanette connected to the NHL War Room back east.
I was almost tempted to call them on the Crombie situation with Derek Dorsett. Get the clarification on that, but you told me not to bother them.
They're busy. A lot of games. Actually, I think this is the only one still going on. And the conversation continues. We've seen numerous angles. It has to be, first of all, we don't know what the call on the ice is
Yes.
yet, and it has to be conclusive the other way to overturn it. And we have a verdict, and we're going to get an announcement here from Mark Schwanette.
After review, decision stands on the ice. Good goal.
Oh, man. Wow.
Wow. I'm surprised by that one.
Now here's a shot, and Martin Hanzal, it's off the blade of his stick. Head down. Catches the far corner. Wow, that one surprises me. And the fans here are seeing it on the Jumbotron, and that's early action.
So Hansel's second of the game, fourth of the season at 15:25. That changes the complexion of this one big time. Now Hansel's in again with a wrist shot, scores! He's got a hat trick now. Martin Hanzal with the second hat trick of his career, and it's 3-0 Coyotes.
Boy, oh boy, right from the faceoff after the Hansel's celebration goal on the tip-in goal. Canucks jump up, and Nick Bonino gets trapped. And it's off the inside of the arm of Ryan Miller.
2 goals in 9 seconds for Martin Hanzal.
And Ryan Miller doesn't like that one. That one squeezed through his body.
And now we have a penalty on the play. And a lot of discussion on the ice. Bonino in the box. Willie Desjardins trying to exhort his team here. Controversial, at least in the Canucks' eyes, decision on the first goal, and 9 seconds later, Hansel struck again to make it 3-0.
And who did Ryan Stanton get hurt? It was against Martin Hansel. He bounced off Hansel and hit himself on the dasher.
Canucks give up 2 quick ones. Now they're short-handed. First one for Hansel from Erat and McCulloch. Well, pardon me, that was the latest one. Erat and McCulloch at 15:34. And we get a whistle. Face off in the Vancouver zone.
I still have no idea what the penalty is on Nick Bonino.
That is not a record, by the way, for the Canucks in terms of fastest 2 goals against. That's 7 seconds, which has happened a couple of times. Bonino's penalties for unsportsmanlike conduct. Must have said something after the goal. Here's Yandel. Back to Ekman-Larsson. Fan on his shot, but Bodker gets him the puck back. Ekman-Larsson to Mikhail Bodker. Yandel from the left point. Sends one wide. Doan looking for the deflection out of midair. Henrik Sedin killing the penalty with Daniel. Lost the puck to Ekman-Larsson. Daniel interfered with Ekman-Larsson a bit, and then Ekman-Larsson stepped into Bieksa. And they're just separating now as Hamhuis drives the puck down the ice. Erat offside as he tried to straddle the blue line. And the whistle blows with 39 seconds to go in the Nick Bonino penalty.
Now Daniel Sedin gets away with that one on Ekman-Larsson, and then he's just cruising by as Kevin Bieksa steps into the picture, and Ekman-Larsson steps into him. That was an intentional offside. The faceoff comes down into the Coyote zone.
Hansel, 2 goals in 9 seconds. The NHL record for fastest 2 goals by one player is 4 seconds. It's happened twice. Darren Quint, most recently for Winnipeg in 1995. One you might remember, John, Nels Stewart for the Montreal Maroons back in 1931. Scored twice in 4 seconds in a game against Boston.
Quint, wasn't he a defenseman?
For Winnipeg.
Yes.
Here's Sean Mathias short-handed, looking to give the Canucks a spark, trying to cut in after going wide. He was angled off by Michael Stone. Weber sends a long one in on Dubnyk. Penalty to Bonino is over. Arizona 0 for 2 on the power play, but leading the game 3-0 on a natural hat trick for Martin Hansel. Here's Weber trying to move in from the blue line. Shot attempt blocked by Gormley. And Hansel comes back. He's checked. Burroughs trying to move in. Gormley knocked the puck away from him. 2 minutes to go in the second. 3-0 for the Coyotes. Arizona clears. Bieksa tracks the puck inside his own blue line. Quick pivot to get away from McMillan. Pass ahead. Higgins goes rink wide to Henrik Sedin. He sends one in front, and Vrbata couldn't quite reach the pass. McMillan clears the puck ahead, chases after it. First to it is Ryan Stanton. Long pass to Daniel Sedin. Drops it back to Vrbata. Now Daniel again. Tried to throw it to Henrik. Look out, that puck whistled into the seats. And I think everybody's okay.
Again, the Canucks with what looks like a very good chance and just can't quite get there. Henrik Sedin to Vrbata, going hard to the net, and it just out of his reach. A little hook.
Antoine Vermette wins a face-off from Brad Richardson. aggressively in off the blue line. Loses his stick. And he'll head to the bench to grab one, or at least try to, from Dan Hamhuis, but he missed the exchange of the baton. Now he gets a stick as Bieksa picks up the puck in the final minute of the second period. Richardson chips one up for Nicholas Jensen. Now Richardson from the corner. Vermette winds up with the puck. Along the boards, tip past Hamhuis and out to center. Final 35 seconds of the second. Canucks out shooting Arizona 23-12. The scoreline, the important one, reads 3-0 for Martin Hanzal and the Coyotes. Ekman-Larsson deflects the puck in. Phoenix just want to ensure it gets out with its 3-goal lead. Maybe we'll try to add to it here. Gagne in front. Yandel took a stab at the puck and put it wide. Gagne again. Down for Doan, who sent one across the top of the crease. Here's Gagne again. Dying seconds. Doan shoots. He scores. Shane Doan on a one-timer. And it's 4-0 Arizona with 2.7 seconds to go in the second.
Sam Gagne, a beautiful pass to Shane Doan, and Shane Doan is only he can do. Off the post and in again. Gagne to Doan, one-timer, off the toe of the stick, perfect shot.
19:57, the time of the goal.
You see Shane Doan get those feet ready to let it rip.
Stunned crowd here at Rogers Arena as the Canucks give up 3 late ones here. Hanzal has a hat trick, 2 in 9 seconds, and then Shane Doan with just a couple of ticks left. And all Arizona on the scoreboard here, Brad. 20 minutes to go, 4-0 Coyotes as we send it back to you.
Welcome back. Scoring summaries brought to you by Panago Pizza. Before, during, or after the game, get a fresh Panago. First goal of the game, Hanzal, his third. Natural Hattie for the man. 4th and 5th, the second and third coming 9 seconds apart before Doan scored late in the period to give the Coyotes a 4-0 lead.
You saw the look on Shane Doan's face on that last replay. All smiles still, and he was the one who really spoke strongly about his team in the aftermath of the loss last night in Calgary, and they've responded, leading the Canucks 4-0 here as we get going in period number 3.
There's the penalty to start.
So the Canucks get an early power play. Bodker touches the puck, and 18 seconds into the third, Canucks go to the man advantage. Ekman-Larsson heading to the box.
That's even better news. Ekman-Larsson, they stick in the skates of Henrik Sedin. Ekman-Larsson's been their best defenseman in this one, with Keith Yandel on the limp a little bit.
Yandel did come back, but he's not on the ice right now. They have Gormley and McCulloch along with Vitale and McMillan up front. Canucks' first power play unit with Vrbata controlling at the left point. Works his way down, passes to Daniel Sedin, over to Henrik, and back to Edler. Passes to Vrbata. Wrist shot, handled, rebound. Vey passes to Vrbata, back to Edler. Fakes the shot, Vrbata lets it go, and Dubnyk the save, no rebound. And he hangs on with 19 seconds gone in the penalty to Ekman-Larsson.
Well, this is rotated around, and Vrbata gets the one-timer, but again, no traffic in front as Lyndon Vey slides to the middle. He thought Alex Edler was going to shoot it.
Canucks trying to get back to their early season success with a man advantage. Here's Edler. Henrik Sedin to Daniel Sedin. Took a pass off his skate. Gets the puck back to Edler. Daniel top of the circle. Wrist shot, it was more of a pass. Rebound Vrbata after the Henrik tip, couldn't put it home. Puck cleared towards the left point, Edler over to hold it in. Pass to Lyndon Vey. Here's Henrik Sedin up to Daniel Sedin. Edler to Vrbata. Vey from the goal line. Back up to Vrbata. Minute to go in the power play. Centering pass, Henrik healed it. Well wide. Edler from the line. Daniel Sedin. Henrik Sedin. Across to Vrbata. I don't know if Murphy diving out got a piece of that one. 40 seconds to go in the man advantage. Vrbata again, and he whipped on it. 35 seconds to go in the power play. Henrik Sedin back to Edler. Wrist shot wide. Vrbata off the left wing. Edler again lets it go, and Dubnyk able to get a big piece of it and steer to the corner. Coyotes clear. Canucks will all change as Miller settles the puck behind the net for Dan Hamhuis. 10 seconds left in the power play. Good job by Korpikoski to get his stick on that pass, and now Vermette gives the puck to Bieksa as the penalty comes to an end. Canucks are 0 for 2 on the power play. Managed 4 shots on that one, and 6 total in their 2-man advantages, but have yet to score on Devan Dubnyk. Higgins tried to get one on goal from the left wing. That was blocked. And here's Lauri Korpikoski on the right wing. Backhands one well wide. Puck comes off the corner boards all the way down to the Phoenix blue line. Yandel wisely waited with Gormley still not on the bench before he played the puck. Puck tipped in, but over the glass, and there'll be a face-off outside the Vancouver blue line.
Canuck power play with the Sedins. Move the puck around, get their play. Henrik tips it, but Devan Dubnyk's right there to make the play. Pass across to Radim Vrbata, and Murphy diving, as you so aptly described, just off the shaft of his stick up and over the crossbar. That was probably their best chance of the full power play.
Stays 4-0 as we hit the 3-minute mark of the third period. Shane Doan into the middle. Here's Sam Gagner. Left side, Rob Klinkhammer tried to chip one in front, blocked by Chris Tanev. Klinkhammer after the puck again, but Brad Richardson picks it up. Passes to an open wing at center. Tanev's not going to catch up to that one, so he retreats as Doan moves in. Rings the puck around. Jensen waiting for that one. Across center for Sean Mathias. He missed the puck. Richardson picks it up, plays it in behind the goal. Here's Brandon Gormley. Long pass, and Doan offside. Couldn't quite take it anyway. We'll check in with Murph.
John, the Canucks Open Practice presented by Sportsnet is back Saturday, November 22nd at Rogers Arena starting at 10 a.m. Get up close, view of your favorite players and coaches as they prepare for their game against the Chicago Blackhawks. Tickets are free. Go to Canucks.com/open practice for more details.
Always a fun time. Coaches get some ideas for some drills.
BJ Crombie in his 400th career game gets the puck deep in the Vancouver zone. Puts it back to Michael Stone across the blue line. Long shot by Gormley, tipped on goal by Crombie, and it's stopped by Ryan Miller. 4 minutes into the third. Jannik Hansen trying to flip one in front. Dorsett was waiting, but the puck was gloved away by Stone, who brings it to center and slides it in behind the Vancouver goal. Yannick Weber. So Radim Vrbata tips the puck in off the end glass. McCulloch ahead for Erat, knocked down by Hamhuis. Hansel back for the puck. Weber's moved down from the right point. Daniel Sedin from behind the net. Centers on the back end, blocked by Dubnyk, and he grabs the puck with his blocker and gets the whistle.
Protect your engine at temperatures as low as 40 below with Mobil 1 Advanced Fuel Economy. Mobil 1. Energy lives here.
Canucks just not sharp in this one. And there's Lyndon Vey and BJ Crombie wide open, and it's after the fact that he gets there. You think of the Hansel first goal with Alex Burrows right there.
Here's Edler trying a shot off the draw. Higgins on the rebound. Backhander kicked up by the right pad of Dubnyk. Bonino tried to center. That was blocked by Vermette. And Korpikoski comes out with the puck. Higgins steps into him. Tanev flips the puck forward to Chris Higgins. Checked by Korpikoski. Following on is Alex Edler. Gets to the Arizona blue line and dumps the puck around. Burrows forces it behind the goal, picked up there by Connor Murphy, who gets the puck to the line and out. Chance for a 2-on-1. Vermette with Korpikoski. Vermette shoots and a blocker saved by Miller. Bonino comes back for Vancouver. End of his shift, he'll backhand the puck in and head to the bench. Five and a half minutes into the third. Arizona 4, the Canucks nothing. Shane Doan trying to get behind Bieksa. Here's Gagne onto the puck on the backhand. Then he tried to put it on the forehand and tuck it in. That didn't work. Mathias with a pass to Jensen. And here comes Bieksa down the right side. Leaves for Nick Jensen, who cuts to the high slot. Try to pass for Richardson. That didn't get through. Klinkhammer plays the puck to an open wing. Hughes takes possession. Fires a long one up for Jensen. Did well to stay on side. Now Mathias with a one-timer. Stopped by Dubnyk. And the Canucks are one shot away from 30, but have yet to score. Brandon McMillan loses the puck. Tanev has it across to Edler. That hit a Canuck coming onto the ice. Tanev takes possession. And he'll start his way to center. Shoots the puck in, and offside was Dorsett. So the whistle blows. A little over 6 minutes into the third, and it's all visitors on the score sheet at Rogers Arena.
Have you ever wanted to watch a game from the GM's box or have dinner with a 94 Canucks alumni? Then join the Save On Foods Canucks Fan Zone for your chance to win over 1,500 exclusive Canucks experiences and merchandise. Visit any Save On Foods location to earn puck points by purchasing featured products. Then redeem your puck points for a chance to win. Visit Save On Foods, CanucksFanZone.com to sign up today.
Canucks don't play many Friday night games. This one has been a game where they just haven't been sharp, and they've been sharp most of the year.
Yes, it's actually Friday the 14th, but you might think otherwise. There's a slap pass. Daniel Sedin trying to direct the puck on goal. Vrbata winds up with it, backhands behind the net to Henry. Centering pass, Daniel trying to get a backhander away. Puck went wide, and Erat sends it off the boards and out. Henrik Sedin trying to work the puck forward, gets it to Vrbata, now to Daniel. Edler the trailer. Daniel tries a shot, a weak one off the stick of Ekman Larsson, and then the pad of Dubnyk. Daniel broke his stick taking that shot. He heads to the bench, replaced by Derek Dorsett. Kevin Bieksa drops in the corner for Alex Edler. 7.5 minutes into the third. Long pass ahead. Bieksa couldn't quite corral it. Bodker's back for the puck. And dumps it onto the end boards for Zdeněk McCulloch. Bodker tried a breakaway pass for Vermette. That was knocked down by Vey. And Bieksa dumps the puck back in. Dubnyk out of his net. Now he's got to scramble back as the Canucks try to force it to the front. Cleared to the line, gloved down by Hughes. To the right point, Bieksa wanted to fire a wrist shot, but the puck rolled off his stick. Korpikoski has it knocked off his stick right to Vermette, who throws one forward for Mikkel Bodker, but out of his reach, and Hughes takes control, falls down, but able to recover and pick up the puck and throw it across to Yannick Weber. Just past the 8-minute mark of the third. Burrows trying to flip the puck in, send it right at Connor Murphy. Now it's thrown towards Shane Doan. Miller tips the puck to the corner. Here's Klinkhammer dropping to Gagne. Gets around Stanton, now behind the net. Trying to shake free from Yannick Weber. Sam Gagne centers it. Doan couldn't take the pass off his skate. Here's Yandel with a long drive, missed the net. Murphy on the other side. Being checked by Higgins, but able to pass down to the goal line towards Doan. Higgins lines up with the puck and finds Yannick Weber. Burrows throws the puck back to him. Weber wasn't expecting that. Murphy intercepts. Here's Brandon McMillan. They're going to say he knocked that one down with a high stick. Whistle blows in the neutral zone.
Shots are now 30-15. And do you think Willie Desjardins cares about that? That's a high stick. Although I was wrong on the last one.
Yep. I was with you on that one.
Thank you. Although we were hearing that there were some other angles that were a little more favorable for Martin Hanzal from the league office, obviously.
Past the 9-minute mark of the third. And an offside whistle stops play once more.
Canon's Best in Glass sale. Save big on cameras and lenses for a limited time only. Visit canon.ca/bestinglass today.
Joe Vitale's been good in the face-offs, and that's one of the things. 6-2 in the face-off circle. He's done his job, and Coyotes move on to play in Edmonton on Sunday to finish their 3 games road trip.
Canucks' next game is in Edmonton as well, but it's not until Wednesday. And that's why Vancouver players were wanting a better performance and a better result, at least the way things are looking right now.
Now, do you think they look past this, Tim?
Easy to argue, I suppose, but they just didn't want to dwell on a loss for all these days. Edler at the blue line. Wrist shot blocked. McCulloch got in front of it. And he throws the puck to center. Bieksa trying to settle it inside the blue line. Round for Alex Edler. And Edler passes to Bieksa. Shot off the right wing. Missing the net. Lyndon Bay. Puck out to center. Bieksa banks it ahead for Dorsett. Taken away by Martin Hanzal. Here's Hamhuis at center. Wristing the puck around. Weber picks it up. Sends it through the slot, but nobody there. Coyotes move the puck out to center. Tipped in deep. Hamhuis trying to force it ahead. Jannik Hansen now. Dan Hamhuis at center. Backhands the puck in behind the goal. 9 minutes to go in the third. Time moving too quickly for the Canucks, but not quickly enough for the Coyotes. They're looking to end a 3-game losing streak. Nick Bonino. And that was read well by Rob Klinkhammer, who comes back over the Vancouver blue line. Into the middle, Yandel, quick shift to the outside. And now Jones to Yandel. Murphy, wrister wide. Puck ricochets towards Alex Burrows. He passes to Tanev and across to Edler. Now Edler throws one through the crease. The extra from the line, slap shot. And that's off a stick and over the glass for a whistle. With 8:16 now remaining in the third. Dave Tippett's team looking good, leading 4-0 here in Vancouver.
Shop at Safeway today. Watch future Sportsnet telecasts, and you could win an all-inclusive trip for 2 to a Grand Bahia Principe Resort, courtesy of redtag.ca, where Canada shops for great travel deals.
John, I think it's only human nature. After the Canucks road trip through California, they did so well. They come home, kind of an emotional game against Ottawa that you never see, but a Western Conference team who was last in the West. You've got all these days off. You just say, oh, okay, kind of, we'll go out and play, and you don't have that same kind of intensity that you have to have against everybody.
Tobias Reeder flips the puck into the Vancouver zone. Bieksa throws one up the middle. That missed everybody. Puck slides right through to Dubnyk, who steers it over to Keith Yandel. Now Stanton up to Bieksa. Through one rink wide. Delayed offside here. And Matthias. Oh, sorry, it's not delayed offside. It's touched with a high stick. So the face-off will be deep in the Arizona zone. Wednesday night hockey. This is November 19th we're talking about, and it's the Canucks in Edmonton. You can see the start times there on Sportsnet. Coverage beginning at 4:30. That's the next game for the Canucks, as we mentioned. A big break. And then they'll be done with Edmonton for a while. Been a lot of Oilers early in the season, including 2 late in the preseason. Mikhail Bodker loses control of the puck at the Vancouver blue line. Chris Tanev has it ahead to Radim Vrbata. He drives one hard around to the near side. Vermette behind the net. Vrbata read that well, steals the puck. Daniel Sedin behind for Henrik. Ekman Larsson's on him. Henrik keeps control. Pass to Vrbata. Along for Daniel. Back to Vrbata. Now to Henrik Sedin. Henrik finds a little room. Ekman Larsson appears to be shaken up after going down. Now he steps up to hit Tanev, who's in deep. Good possession here by the Canucks, but nothing towards goal. Vrbata might try to change that as he cuts in front with a shot that hit Daniel Sedin in the leg. 6.5 minutes to go in the third, and the Coyotes able to clear to center. Now McCulloch steals the puck, and he'll backhand it in and head to the bench. Keeping an eye on Ekman Larsson. He's not putting a lot of weight on his left leg as he takes a seat at the Arizona bench. So both of the top 2 defensemen and minute-eating blue liners at that, Yandel and Ekman Larsson, both shaken up at points in this game. Brandon McMillan with the puck, chips it off the glass and out. Here's Vitale trying to find some room on the right wing. Vitale centers for Crombie, and that came off Weber, and Miller had to hold the puck out. Vitale again, back to Stone, slap shot, right pad saved by Ryan Miller. Lyndon Bay for the Canucks. Drops for Hamhuis. Wrist shot, stopped by Dubnyk on the short side. Vitale back to pick up the loose puck. Couldn't get it by Hamhuis in the corner. Vey skates towards traffic, but now gets the puck back to Bieksa. He risks one on goal and a stick save by Dubnyk. Higgins on the right wing. Being checked by Klinkhammer. Stone comes back for the puck. Dumps it around to the near side. Bieksa gets it there. Wrists one in front, and that's off a body and into the corner. Burrows from behind the net. He's going to draw a penalty. And Higgins spinning with a shot off the side of the goal. Delayed call. Here's Stanton. Wrist shot. Blocked. Loose puck. Picked up by the Coyotes. So the whistle blows. I think it's Gormley heading to the box. And the Canucks to the power play when we return to Rogers Arena.
Canucks hockey. Brought to you by Subway. Try the savory new prime rib melt. Thick cuts of juicy Canadian beef for a limited time only at participating restaurants. Subway. Eat fresh.
Brandon Gormley's had a good game for the Phoenix Coyotes. The young defenseman just up from the minors, reaches around Alex Burrows and gets called for holding. Had the stick underneath his arm.
Canucks trying to get one past Devan Dubnyk, who's had a season-high 33 saves, fashioning this 4-0 lead. Here's Vrbata. Back to Edler. Puck was on edge, so he settles it. Passes to Henrik Sedin. To the goal line to Daniel. Back to Edler. Wrist shot off the stick of Reeder and over top of the goal. McCulloch gets the loose puck. Sends it past Edler. And now Reeder giving chase. Down the right side, trying to cut in front. And Lyndon Bay was able to knock the puck away. And then they'll get a penalty for holding. And it'll be 4-on-4 for the next minute 29.
Reeder showed a burst of speed. The puck gets by Alex Edler. Reeder's by Edler, but Vey cuts him off, but reached around with that left hand, and he gets called for a hold.
Canucks 0 for 3 on the power play with that. Arizona stands to get a 31-second power play if there are no more penalties. 4-on-4 until then.
Vancouver penalty, number 7, Lyndon Bay, 2 minutes for holding. Time of the penalty, 15:37. Bay for holding at 15:37.
Kevin Bieksa. Stripped of the puck by Connor Murphy. Yandel back to the near side, Korpikoski. Moving in on Hughes, who put the hip into him and sent Korpikoski flying. He's got something caught in his skate.
Dan Hamhuis' stick.
Korpikoski trying to get to the bench. As the Canucks move up ice and Dubnyk grabs that puck. Still trying to dislodge it from his right skate after getting tangled up with Dan Hamhuis. It's almost like the tape of
Yes.
this.
Dan Hamhuis, the hip on Korpikoski, good timing.
There's already something hanging off that skate when he moved in.
Oh, it's his shield. It's the toe cap. That's not supposed to happen.
Still 4-on-4. Stanton holds the puck. Burrows trying to do the same, but it's down to the Vancouver blue line. Sean Matthias chases after his tip-in. Ekman Larson gives it away. Matthias from behind the goal. Pass to Weber, quick shot, the left pad saved by Dubnyk. Matthias again, trying to pull his way out of the corner. Burrows is onto the puck. Knocked to his knees, held it in briefly, but now Stone brings the puck up. And Burrows is going to get a slashing penalty here. As he got up and took a chop at the Arizona player, Yandel in with a slap shot, gloved by Miller. There's the whistle for the slashing penalty, and the Canucks will be 2 men short for 26 seconds.
Martin Hansel's been the best player on the ice. Here he gets Alex Burrows frustrated, and it was Stone that Burrows ended up slashing.
So a 4-0 lead and a 2-man advantage here for just under 30 seconds for the visitors. Sam Gagner directing traffic before the drop of the puck. And he wins the draw. Here's Yandel. Doan one-timer, blocker saved by Miller. Shane Doan to the blue line again. 12 seconds to go on the first penalty. Doan down for Gagner. Tried to go across the crease for Bodker, who gets the puck in the corner. Back to Yandel. Slap shot, scores! Klinkhammer was in front. Not sure if he tipped it. A slapper from Yandel, and it's 5-0.
I think he did. I think it goes up and over Ryan Miller off the stick of Klinkhammer in front. 5-on-3. Creates some traffic. This pass is almost picked off, but gets by. And a little wrist shot hit his side. Hit the hip of Klinkhammer. Yandel shoots it. Good screen, and it's off Klinkhammer and by Ryan Miller.
See how they score it. But it did look like it just ticked the hip of Klinkhammer in front. And Arizona remains on the power play. No, they don't. The clock shows 1 second to go in the Vey penalty. But it's actually right on the second. The penalty came at 15:37. The goal's at 17:37. So both penalties will be scrubbed, and Arizona is 1 for 4 on the power play. Five goals on 20 shots. And now McMillan's in again. Canucks have had 35 on Dubnyk. Here's Hansen ahead for Jensen. He chases in on Gormley. Tries to pin him along the boards. They do give the goal to Yandel. Yandel from Bodker and Gagner. For now, it's not Klinkhammer's goal, although it just appeared to brush his pants as it went by him in the slot.
Did seem to change direction.
We're not doing well with the video
No, we
reviews
aren't.
today. Not our night. Here's Gagne and Rishot Miller out to challenge, handles that one, and looks a little frustrated as he juggles the puck and grabs it.
As you said, it's hard for the players to have those days off after you play a game like this, and it's even more difficult for the goaltender. You have one of those nights like Ryan Miller has had, not a whole lot of work and not a whole lot of help.
It'll be his first ever loss to the Coyote franchise. Came in at 7-0. Hadn't seen them much given his long time in Buffalo as the Canucks ice the puck with 1:17 to go. Here's our game review. No, it's not. We'll check the game review in a moment. Face-off upcoming deep in the Vancouver zone. Vermette against Vey. And Vermette wins it cleanly. Long shot by Gormley. Glove saved by Miller.
Now the Canucks play Wednesday, Thursday. Edmonton, Anaheim.
Yes.
Eddie Lack had that real good game against Anaheim.
Yeah.
So you play Ryan Miller on Wednesday in Edmonton and Eddie back here on Thursday.
I agree. Miller's going to be dying to get right back in. Dave Tippett, some thought he might go with Mike Smith in this one, despite playing last night in Calgary and losing. But he's looking pretty smart now with Devan Dubnyk a minute away from a perfect game here. Tanev clears the puck past Gormley and down the ice. Dubnyk thought about coming out to play it, but now slides back into the goal crease as Dorsett throws a hit on Stone. Hansen trying to work his way in front. He's hit by Korpikowski. Puck loose at the side. Canucks can't get a stick on it. Now we got a fight as Dorsett has dropped the gloves with Crombeen again. And maybe they'll get more of their money's worth in this one, although the linesmen are trying to break them up. They fought earlier after Dorsett had thrown a hit on Erat. And now, with just over 30 seconds to go in the game, they drop the gloves once more. Here is the game review, as promised, brought to you by The Brick, saving you more on furniture, mattresses, appliances, and big screen TVs.
Martin Hanzal, unbelievable game. Not real hot up until this game here tonight. Shane Doan, back-to-back games with goals, and Devan Dubnyk, who has 2 shutouts against the Canucks already, looking for his third.
We'll hear from Devan Dubnyk in the Hockey Central postgame show. But he wants to get the next 36.2 seconds over with.
The Oilers wanted Devan to be their leader. He's such a good guy. They thought he was great in the room and all that sort of stuff, but their team just wasn't good enough to let him learn to be the #1 goaltender.
5 minutes each for fighting. Cover the penalties, 19-23. Dorsett for Vancouver, 5 minutes each for fighting at 19-23.
5 each for fighting to Crombeen and Dorsett. And now the Coyotes will work to keep the puck in the Vancouver zone and do all they can for the goaltender. Vitale came in front with the backhander wide. 5 seconds left. And this game will come to an end, the 3rd time in his career that Devan Dubnyk has shut out the Vancouver Canucks. It's the 9th shutout of his career. He stops 35, and Martin Hanzal, a natural hat trick, including 2 goals in 9 seconds, as the Coyotes beat the Canucks 5-0.
And that's the first shutout of the season for the Arizona Coyotes. You would think Mike Smith would have one by now, but no, Devan Dubnyk in game number 17 posts the shutout for the Coyotes.
John, your 3 stars. Take me through them.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who has been much maligned this season, has a great game. Devan Dubnyk with the shutout, Martin Hanzal, the scoring star for the Arizona Coyotes.
Canucks, we're looking to head into the break on a high. didn't want to dwell on a loss with so many days between games. And Martin Hanzal had different ideas, and the Coyotes, through his goal scoring and Devin Dubnyk's netminding, able to end a 3-game losing streak as they beat the Canucks here at Rogers Arena. 5-0 the final. Sportsnet Central now with Carly Agro and Jamie Thomas.